So as I mentioned in my review of The Philosopher's Stone, The Chamber of Secrets was my favorite movie when I watched the movies originally. Sadly, I did watch the movies before reading the books, but I read the books, and now I'm rereading them, and I'm giving you my reviews for them. So, here we are with The Chamber of Secrets. The Chamber of Secrets is the second book in the 7-book series. Still stands up as one of my favorites. For those who are new, how I do it is I go through, I give a summary of the book, then I talk about the history of the book, and then I go into my own thoughts on the book. In this case, I'm probably just going to skip over not do too much with a history, because that was done in the first book, and there's not much to say besides after the first book came out, the second book came out. Maybe down the road I'll do a different video where I break down the whole history of each of the books as they're coming out and all, but I feel like we can skip over that for now. So, with that being said, let's get into the summary. So, we begin with Harry Potter on his summer holiday with the Dursleys, having a miserable time when a house elf appears named Dobby, and he warns him that he should not go back to Hogwarts. And he's like, why? And Dobby's like, I can't explain. I just say, just don't go back to Hogwarts. And he's like, I can't do that. Like, my friends. He's like, your friends who are not contacting you? He's like, yeah, what? How do you know that? And he's like, he figures out that Dobby has been hiding his letters so that he can't get to them, so he would want to not go back to Hogwarts. After a while of debating back and forth, Dobby finally decides he's going to make it so Harry can't go back to Hogwarts. And so he goes downstairs. Harry was hiding upstairs because the Dursleys had some people over, and they did not want these people to know that Harry existed. And so Dobby comes downstairs, and he breaks the cake they had just made for these guests and all on the kitchen floor. In the movie, it's on the guest head, but it's on the kitchen floor in the book. And so because of that, Harry almost gets expelled from Hogwarts because they can't do magic outside of Hogwarts as a student. And then he gets locked in his room by the Dursleys. The Weasley twins and Ron, Harry's best friend, shows up and breaks him out of his room and takes him back to their place. He spends the rest of the summer there. When they go to Diagon Alley, the place where they get all their books and all, they meet their new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, Professor Lockhart. And we figure out how, like, he's this super handsome, famous wizard who's, all about, he has all these books and he's, like, all about himself. We then have them trying to go to Hogwarts, and as Harry and Ron are trying to go onto platform 9 3/4, they get stuck on the other side, because we later figure out Dobby had closed the gate so that they couldn't get in, hoping that that would stop them from going to Hogwarts. They end up steering the Weasley's car, who can fly. They fly to Hogwarts. They get stuck in the Whomping Willow. Ron's wand gets broken. Then they get in trouble because of that. Then the real story begins. A little bit into, Harry is dealing with Lockhart being famous and wanting to bring Harry Potter, who's this famous kid, in to his fame, trying to teach him how to properly be famous, while then a little bit on his first, while he is helping Lockhart with writing down some fan responses, he hears a noise, someone saying, go out, kill, right? Those are not the exact words, but he's like, what's that? On his way back from a death day party for nearly headless Nick, he finds the first victim of the Chamber of Secrets. There's some writing on the wall that says, enemies of the air beware, the Chamber of Secrets have been reopened. Throughout the whole year, new people are being attacked. They start expecting that it might be Malfoy. And so they take Polyjuice Potion to try to figure it out. Polyjuice Potion, which turns you into looking like other people. And they go talk to Malfoy as Crabbe and Goyle. And they realize, no, he's not doing this. He just is a fan of whoever's doing this. You have it so they come upon a diary. The diary of someone named Tom Riddle. And Harry's trying to figure out how it works. And eventually he writes, my name is Harry Potter. And the diary all the ink disappears off of that page, because it's an empty page and then it just appears again, back in his handwriting, hello Harry Potter, my name is Tom Riddle. And he has this whole conversation with this guy named Tom Riddle, and figures out that he was the one who saved the school the last time the chamber was opened, that the person who did it was Hagrid, the groundskeeper. In the end, Hagrid gets sacked because of that. Even Dumbledore, after a while of not catching whoever's doing this, he gets sacked too. And then the terrible thing happens of Hermione gets caught by whatever's doing this and petrified. Because all these victims are not dying, they're getting petrified. Then they go on a lead of the last thing that Hagrid had told them, and that is, if you want to know what's going on, follow the spiders. And they go into the woods, and they find out that Aragog was the one who apparently was the monster, but really wasn't. And that someone else did it, and Hagrid did not. So they start to look more. Diary gets stolen back again by whoever's doing this. And then finally, one night, sentence is added onto the wall that says, her skeleton will rest forever in the chamber. And they figured out that that is Ginny Weasley. The school's gonna be closed now because of that. Harry decides he's gonna go save Ginny. And so he goes to Lockhart, who's the one who's supposed to go and save her. And he says, we can help you and all. And Lockhart is trying to leave because you figure out that he's a fraud and that he's just been all the incredible stuff he did, he just stole from other wizards and then erased their memories so they don't remember doing them. And then he just writes them down like it was him who did it. But none of them did he do. But they force him to come down with them to the Chamber of Secrets. And they figure out where the chamber is. They go down there. And sure enough, when they get down there, they find Ginny's body. And then out of the shadows come Tom Riddle, the one who had saved the school originally. Then you figure out that Tom Riddle, he changes his name, and it spells out, I am Lord Voldemort. And you realize that he is the young version of Lord Voldemort, who's somehow in this diary. Later on in the series, we'll figure out how this works. But for right now, we just know that this diary is possessed somehow by Lord Voldemort. He's Slytherin's heir, and that he was the one who originally opened the chamber because he's the only one who can open it and he can talk to snakes, just like Harry can. There was a whole scene with that I didn't go over, but he can talk to snakes too. It's called Partial Tongue when you can talk to snakes. Then Harry fights the monster who's doing all this called a basilisk, who you can't look into its eyes, and that's why all these people got petrified, is while they look either into a mirror, look through another, like the ghost of Nearly Headless Nick who got caught. Nearly Headless Nick is already dead, so he can't be killed. Someone saw it in water. They got tons of reflections, not actually seeing the monster fully, and that's why they got petrified. Harry defeats the basilisk and stabs the diary, which causes Voldemort to die from the diary. He brings her back up, and you figure out that Ginny, in fact, was the one who was being controlled by Lord Voldemort to do this. You figure out that Dobby the house elf, it was actually the Malfoys, and that Lucius Malfoy was the one who slipped Ginny the diary. She pulled out her heart to this diary, thus being able to be controlled by Lord Voldemort. Lucius Malfoy, house elf, Dobby, gets freed, and book kind of ends. That's a very brief summary. I went over a bunch of details, some spoiler stuff in it, but in the same way, it was like, there's so many other scenes I didn't even talk about the Quidditch and all that type of stuff, and I didn't go over every victim of the basilisk, but I want to go over the brief summary of the book before then we can move on and talk about my thoughts, because I do have my thoughts about this. So, one problem I have, as I mentioned in the summary, multiple people got, petrified. They didn't get killed, but they got petrified. But the school was open. The first time the chamber was opened in the book was around Halloween. It wasn't until late spring that they tried to close the school. There was so much of the moment there was that sign, the chamber has been opened again, why didn't the ministry immediately show up and take Hagrid away? It makes no sense. I get it, not the whole thing with immediately trying to remove Dumbledore, but why did they wait so long for that? And on that same note, why did Dumbledore take so long to close the school? You just constantly had more and more people getting petrified, and Dumbledore's like, wait, we need to figure this out someday. But he just keeps not closing the school. And I'm like, seriously, man, what are you doing? The first time it was open, one person died and the school was almost closed. That's why Lord Voldemort or Tom Riddle stopped, and he pretended like he caught the person and got this award from the school for it. But only one person died. The second time around, multiple people got petrified and they still didn't do anything. They just kept waiting. Maybe they'll figure it out. I don't know why they took so long. The first time around, they took a lot shorter time. So it felt a little bit okay, I get why from a book standpoint of okay, we want to continue the story, but in the same way, it's I guess no one had died, and it's everything people can get saved. But if big group of people and one person gets stabbed but doesn't die, another person gets stabbed but doesn't die, at that point they end that party, right? you don't keep it going. He's like, well, no one has died yet, so let's keep it going. Like, in the same way, I think that's a terrible example that I just came up with. But in the same way, it's like, just because no one died doesn't mean it's not a problem. It's like, they said, oh, this is a problem, but they also won't close. That's another problem I have. On that same note, is I feel like it would have been so much better. I get why they made it so the first time they did it, it didn't work out that well. But I would have loved it if they had it so multiple people died in the first time around. So, like, Voldemort seemed more threatening in that moment. Like, whoever did this killed multiple students. Instead, one student died in the school, and they got caught. And it's like, I don't know. It would have been so much... You know what I mean? I'm just like... I feel like it would have been better if they had it so like, multiple people got killed the first time around, and so it makes it more of a threat the second time. The Chambers, for all of its threats of, like, this epic secret chamber and all, it only ever killed one person in its whole lifetime. Of its 1,000 years, and it killed one person. I'm like... I don't know, it just kind of takes down, it kind of just destroys the epicness of the Chamber of Secrets by doing that. Another question on the same note is, why did it take so long for Harry and Ron to finally just say, hey, we should probably ask the ghost who lives in that bathroom if she knows anything about this? Like, why did it take them so long? Like, yeah, they're going all year just trying to figure out themselves, like, hey, what about this ghost that we're hanging out with all the time? What if she knows something? And you're like, oh yeah, guess what? She was the one who was killed. She knows enough to know, hey, it looked like it came out of the sink. Speak some partial tongue, open it up. Guess what? We found our way to the Chamber of Secrets. Wow, that could have happened back in October. I don't know. It's just, there's so many moments where you're like, yeah, like, I don't want to go too much into, like, comparing the movie to the book. But we'll have to say that, in this case, the movie did have a little bit more of, like, this urgency to what's going on with it. We figured out something new. Immediately, let's go talk to the spiders. Instead of, like, no, Harry gets caught. It's like, that sucks. Let's wait a couple weeks, and then we're like, hey, let's go check out the spiders thing. No, it's like, immediately, let's go check out the spiders. This more, like, I don't know, it felt like it was a little bit too much of, people are dying, who cares? Okay, let's move on. And then it's just, everything went back to normal, and it's like, okay, that's one thing that I like about books, is that the fact that they don't always feel like they have to rush things. You can spend time with that. In the movie of The Fellowship of the Ring, they have it so, like, it doesn't really say how long Gandalf was gone, but it was kind of like hinted at there was only like a month or so before he came back. In the book, after Gandalf left Frodo after the party and said, I need to go check some stuff out, he came back 17 years later. It does take a little bit out of the rush, and for a movie, you kind of do have to have that rush of like, yeah. But in the same way, I didn't mind the fact that, in the Fellowship of the Ring, having that moment, it's like, yeah, some time passed, a lot of time passed, and instead of being this barely of age hobbit, he's now almost the same age as Bilbo was when he went on his adventure. Starting on this fun adventure, I get why I do like it when books take their time with that stuff and they don't feel like they're rushing it. But in the same way, I feel like this is an example where they probably should have rushed it a little bit. Like, yeah, guess what? People are dying. Let's rush it. But honestly, I'll have to say that for the most part, I don't have as much criticisms with the second book. I was looking over the criticism I wrote down, and one was like, house elves' powers. Like, how does that work? And it's like, later on in the series, it does explain, yeah, they don't work the same way as wizards, and so they wouldn't expect that anyone besides Harry lives in the Dursleys' house that can do magic, so they just automatically, that's him. Elves can just go from wherever they want. But at first I was like, okay, that would put that on a criticism, but the more I thought about it, yeah, maybe not. The other one I had written down was, I felt it was kind of weird the way that Tom Riddle, Voldemort, he hates Harry Potter more than anything in the world. He had figured out from Ginny how Harry had destroyed his older version of himself, and he's a narcissist. He thinks that he's the greatest. And so the idea that someone else could defeat him just confuses him, but he's intrigued. He hates Harry Potter, right? Even as like a young boy, he's like 16 and he still hates Harry Potter. I thought it was a little bit weird the way he was like, oh, hello, Harry Potter. My name's Tom Riddle. But the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, okay, but it kind of makes sense for, you don't have to give away that this is Lord Voldemort in the beginning. And also, he may have been like, in the back of his head, he might have been thinking, oh my goodness, this is Harry Potter. He got a hold of this book. I can have this conversation with Harry Potter. I have some of my things, like, instead, he played it off cool. He's like, oh, yeah, just casual. You're just an everyday person. And instead, in the back of his head, he's probably thinking something else. But it was like, when I read it, I'm like, I just feel like that seems weird for Voldemort. Again, that's another one that I removed from the criticisms, because I'm like, okay, but in the end, I think it does work. So, with that being said, positives. I think one positive would be the fact that I love it how, like, Lockhart, I liked his inclusion in the story, because unlike some people who tried to say that Harry is 100% not the type of person that want to have fame too much, I feel like anyone who is put in a position like Harry is could turn into too much of one in fame. And so having Lockhart in the story, like at the close to the beginning of his life in Hogwarts, is a really good thing, because it gives him that chance of, yeah, last year you had that fame. Then you defeated Voldemort again. Like, this fame is coming into you in the second year. And then having this character of, this is what would happen if you completely just went only on fame. That you stopped actually being a good wizard. And so, like, some people are going to argue that, oh no, Harry would never become that. But I just feel like there's a chance he might have become something like that. So having Lockhart, maybe that's one of the reasons why Dumbledore wanted Lockhart in the first place, was he thought he could, be an example to Harry of, guess what? This is not what you should be like. This is not who you should be like. Honestly, this is not my favorite book of the books, but I do like this one. I do think it's really great, and there are so many scenes in this book that's been taken out of the movies that should be added again. I really enjoyed reading this book again. The plot is so great. For those who are reading the first time and did not realize that Tom Riddle is Lord Voldemort, it's just like, that was an awesome twist. I remember watching it for the first time, and I'm like, hey, oh, Tom's here. We're good. And then you figure out that Tom is Lord Voldemort, and you're like even, I was like 14, I think it was like 15 at the time, and even my mind was blown away by the fact, I'm like, I don't know why I didn't pick up on before, like, Tom Riddle is a bad guy. I fell for that. And I'm like, for the people who also fell for that, good job, J.K. Rowling. That was well done. Like, I like the storyline in the second book. This book is really one of the big ones that set up the end of the series, when you figure out about Horcruxes. And spoiler, that's what this diary was. It was not just, it was a piece of Voldemort's soul stuck in this diary. It was not just him putting powers into the diary, like enchanting the diary to have memories of him. This was actually a 16-year-old Voldemort. We'll get into Horcruxes later, but yeah, I thought that was a ingenious thing to set up there, and it's going to pay off later. Even, I would say, out of the books with Quidditch, this one probably has the best Quidditch in my mind. The only two books where I ever felt desire of, okay, let's keep the Quidditch going, is the first and second book. After that, I'm like, please shut up with the Quidditch. I'm like, I can't stand Quidditch. Like, I get why it's there, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying, for me, as a non-sports person, every single time the Quidditch comes up, I'm like, okay, there's the Chamber of Secrets is open right now. This is happening right now. Like, this. Like, Voldemort is right now fully active again, and we are stopping our story to watch a game. Like, I don't know. It felt like it was a cutaway to something that I was just like, please move on. I don't care about Quidditch. Like, but that's my opinion. Like, other people love Quidditch. I think it's the best part of the whole book. So, but yeah, I didn't mind the Quidditch in this one because of how it played into what's going on in the deeper story with, like, Dobby and all that one Quidditch match and stuff like that. So I'm like, I didn't mind the Quidditch in this one. Yeah, overall, I would say this book, I think it's somewhat of an improvement on the first book, somewhat not. It's kind of just like, it's one of those books where it's like, it's a sequel that it's as good as the first one type thing. I would also give this one, I'll give this one a 7.5 out of 10. While the first one, I gave it a 7 out of 10. So it's a little bit higher. Still, I'm gonna have to rewatch the movie sometime and try to see how I rank them now. But yeah, even when I read this book, I didn't think it was the best one, but I did enjoy this one. So with that being said, if you guys want to see when I put on my review for The Prisoner of Azkaban, it should be coming out hopefully this week or next week. I'm going to be recording it probably straight after recording this video. Consider subscribing. Thank you guys for watching. Peter Wherry, signing off.